Years 5 and 6, it's Miss Dyer here with your English learning journey. Week beginning Monday the 1st of February 2021. Now this is our second video of the week, but don't worry if you've missed the first, then you can start today. As always, we'll start with a recap. We'll introduce today's learning, or we'll spend a little bit of time together thinking about that learning, and then we'll discuss how we're going to record that in our learning journal, and I'll give you some recommendations and some options to choose from. There are two tasks in today's learning journey. Now the first one is very much an optional, and you may decide that you want to do part of it or all of it. And the second task is the one that the majority of people, or the one that everybody is going to do their very best to complete. Okay, let's start with our recap. So our inquiry question this week is, how do I create and describe an engaging main character for a story? So on Monday or Tuesday, depending on when you did it, we unpicked the key vocabulary in this question. And we were generating ideas around our outcome. Now by Friday, we're going to have created our own engaging character for a story. And we're going to have written a short description of this character, applying all the knowledge that we have about description. We're going to record our learning or journal our learning in a learning journal, just as we would do in school. We've been using the task wheel to guide us towards achieving our outcome. So the first part of our week, we were gathering and organising our existing knowledge. We decided on our outcome, and we began to generate ideas and do some research about characters. This term, our gateway, is explorers. An explorer is somebody who follows their passions and seeks challenges in order to aspire to be the best version of themselves. We've been using two key questions as part of our reflections this term. How have I shown determination and perseverance? How can I use reflection to make a decision when I've been faced with a challenge? We're going to continue using those reflections this week. Okay, so the first task then, this is your optional task for today. You may choose to do all of it, you may choose to do part of it, or you may just decide that you're going to think about it quietly to yourself, but you don't want to record the learning. Most children will be able to challenge themselves as part of being an explorer to record something in their learning journey, even if that's just a few words, a short sentence, or a diagram. Now, our learning focus for today, we're going to focus on the create part. So we're going to be creating our main character today. Now you've already generated some ideas about the characters you've enjoyed reading about. That could have been Harry Potter. That might have been Matilda. Or it might have been the Wimpy Kid from Diary of a Wimpy Kid. But today, you're going to have to think as an author, a writer, which is a slightly different way of thinking. Because you're going to have to think how an author creates engaging characters. You know what you like to read about, but not every reader likes to read about the same things as you. Now, to help you think like an author, I found some useful research. Now, we have access to a podcast which is called Author in Your Classroom. And this podcast brings authors straight to you. So Sam Copeland is an author who created a main character who's a young boy called Charlie. And Charlie is able to turn himself into animals. He's an extremely funny character and very engaging. Now Sam Copeland has been interviewed about how to create characters, giving top tips. I've shared the link on your Class Dojo. It looks like this when you click on it. To listen to the interview, all you need to do is press play. It's free and anybody can listen to it at any time. It is about 20 minutes long. If you haven't got time to listen to it all, I recommend that you start listening at about 9 minutes. The second author that you may be interested in is Dermot O'Leary. You may recognise the name from TV. Dermot is quite a famous TV presenter. Dermot is being interviewed about how to write great stories using research. And again, you can click on the link and it comes up exactly the same as the Sam Copeland link. All you have to do is press play. The final link that I've shared on Class Dojo for you is a YouTube video where there's an author talking about the things that he thinks about when he's creating characters. Now, some of you may decide you're just going to listen to those and you're going to just make a few notes on the page you've already created with ideas about characters. Some of you may decide that you're going to create a learning journal entry. And I think some of you, and most of you, can challenge yourselves to do this today. So if you're going to create a learning journal entry, it might look something like this. At the top, you're definitely going to have the title and today's date. I recommend that you use a ruler to create a thinking column on the right or left hand side, or even at the bottom of your page if you wish. Then you're going to need the key question. How do authors create engaging characters? And then you can decide how you present your learning or your thoughts after listening to the podcast. I've decided to use a table. So using a ruler and a pencil, I've drawn my table and I'm going to record 4 things from the Sam Copeland podcast that interest me or that I learned, and 4 things from the Dermot O'Leary podcast that interested me or that I learnt. You could even decide to use a mind map if you wish. When you've recorded your thinking or your learning, then it's time to have a reflection moment. We do this in the thinking column. I've given you 2 questions to think about. How have your initial ideas developed after listening to the podcast? So on Monday or Tuesday, you created some of your first ideas about a character you might like to write about. Are you keeping your character the same now, or is there something you're going to do to change it or improve it? Make a note of that in your thinking column. If, like Sam Copeland and Dermot O'Leary, you think you need to research an element of your character, make a note of that. If your character is going to be a scuba diver and you don't know much about scuba diving, you're definitely going to need to research it. If your character, like Sam Copeland's character Charlie, is going to turn into an animal, you'll need to research that animal. If your story is set in the jungle, you're going to need to research the jungle. Record any research that you need to make here. Then it will be up to you on the next page to show your research. Okay, Year 5 and 6, there's a few things to do there. Just a quick recap. Listen to 1 or 2 or 3 of the podcasts. Record your ideas in your journal on the pages that you did on Monday or Tuesday. Or some of you, most of you, would like to challenge yourselves today, as we're all being explorers and challenging ourselves, to create a learning journal entry about the podcasts. If you decide that you need to research an element of your character, you'll need to find time to do this at some point in the week and do your own learning journal entry. Remember, this is an optional task, so it's up to you how much you challenge yourself, but most people will be able to create a learning journey entry, or write a few notes, or draw a picture. Okay, pause the video now then, Year 5 and 6, if you're ready to listen to the podcasts and to do your first learning journal entry. If you want to listen to the second part of the video first, then stick with me, or come back when you're ready. Okay, so the second part of today's learning journey, and you might like to complete this tomorrow or this afternoon, that's fine. We're going to create our character, and this is the bit we've all been looking forward to. Now you can be as creative as you like, Year 5 and 6, as long as it is believable. So we're up to our task where we're now generating ideas, and over the next few days you'll be thinking and deciding about which is the best idea and why. Now, an engaging character, and I do apologise Year 5 and 6 because I'm going to have to do a little bit of talking now. And this is your success criteria. So these are the things that will make your character engaging. One thing that you're going to need to think about is your character's past. Now, your character will need a history. Authors often think about the memories that a character has. So what are some of their favourite memories? Or what memories have played an important part in their life? Where did they grow up? Who was their best friend? Where did they go to school? Those are some basic questions that you'll need to think about and decide upon. You'll need to think about and decide upon your character's physical characteristics. So this is their appearance and their mannerisms. What do they look like? Do they have any distinguishing features? So for example, do they have a big nose and that's how everybody recognises them? Are they very tall? Do they have an unusual hair colour or an unusual eye colour? What do they look like? Does their appearance or what they look like play an important part in the story? It's always important to think about their voice. What does your character sound like? Do they speak with an accent? Does their voice match their appearance? It's also useful to think about how they move, how they talk to others. What do they do if they're nervous? For example, Harry Potter, when he's nervous, he rubs his scar, especially when it hurts him as well. That's one of his mannerisms, or something that he does. You also need to think about your character's storyline, or their goal. What do they want to achieve by the end of the story? Harry Potter's goal is to defeat Voldemort. Why does he want to defeat Voldemort? What are his reasons and motives? Your character will need reasons and motives for what they're trying to achieve in the story. For example, Harry Potter wants to defeat Voldemort because he wants to defend the wizarding world. That's his motivation. He also wants to have closure after the death of his parents. So his goal is to defeat Voldemort. The reason he's doing it, or his motive, is to defend the wizarding world. Your character will need to have a storyline and a goal and a motive. To make your character realistic, it's going to need to have some strengths and flaws. Now, we're not all perfect year 5 and 6, and neither are your characters. So one of Harry Potter's strengths is that he's brave and loyal. However, he is also very stubborn and he's reckless, and he puts himself and at times his friends in danger. That's why we like him, because we know he's brave and loyal, but also we actually worry at times that he might not defeat Voldemort because of his stubbornness and his recklessness. You want your character to be believable and relatable, so they can't be completely perfect. They do need to have some flaws. Now, your character may have to face a challenge or an obstacle in the story, something they've got to overcome. Maybe it's a problem, somebody they've got to defeat, like Harry Potter and Voldemort. Maybe it's an adventure they're going on, and challenges or obstacles come up along the way. Now, this last one is a real challenge. Remember, we're trying to challenge ourselves and persevere to be the best version of ourselves. So you may decide your character is going to learn something during the story, something that changes and develops them as a person. For example, at the start of your story, are they selfish and only think of themselves? And perhaps by the end of the story, they learn to think of others. You'll need to think about how they're going to change and what they're going to learn. Will they change for the better? Do they change the world or the people around them? Okay, so there's your success criteria, year 5 and 6. I realise there's a lot there. So if it was me, I would focus on 2 at a time. So I'd think about my character's past first, and then I'd think about what they look like. Then I'd think about my storyline and my goal, what my character's going to achieve, and I'd think about their strengths and flaws. And I would continue thinking about them in groups of 2. Now, I'm going to share 2 ways with you, 2 options of how you can present your learning in today's learning journal. Now, your character, I should say, how you can present your character. So your first option is to use a character map. This looks like this. And you'll notice that if you imagine this is your page, I've put the picture of the character slightly to the left, so I've got plenty of room on the right hand side, because on this part I'm going to have to make a few more notes than the other parts. So in the centre you've got your character, slightly to the left of your page. Above your character you can record and make notes about their past. To the left of your character you can record and make notes about their personality, including their strengths and flaws. Underneath the character, you can think about their appearance, what they look like, and their mannerisms. And then to the right, where you've got more space, we can think about their storyline and the goal. It might be useful to make some notes about the beginning of the story, the conflict or the problem that they come up against, how they overcome it, and how your story is going to end. I've created a worksheet for you which I've posted on Dojo. Now you won't need to write on the worksheet because you're going to present your learning in your learning journal, but this hopefully gives you an idea of what your page will look like. So again, at the top you'll have your your inquiry question and today's date. You will have drawn a column either on the right hand side or the left hand side, or at the bottom for your thinking. And then you'll have your character map in the centre of your page. Your thinking column asks you to think about the following. First of all, you're going to think about your success criteria. Do you think you've met your success criteria today? If you do, then you can score yourself between 8, 9 and 10. If you think you're part of the way there to achieving your success criteria, you may score yourself somewhere in the middle. If you think, oh no, I completely forgot about my success criteria, you might score yourself a 1, 2 or 3. After creating your character, you might decide that you need to do some research or think about a certain element. Make a note of it in your thinking column. And lastly, reflect on how you've challenged yourself today and how you've shown determination. So year 5 and 6, that is one option and one way that you could present your character. Here's your second option. This is called a role on the wall. Now, a role on the wall, you'll need to draw an outline of your character in the centre of your page. You may decide to draw an actual picture of your character, but you will need space to write on the inside of their body. So you may need to draw them larger than you normally would. Now, around the outside of your character, you're going to make notes or write sentences or phrases about your character's past, about their appearance and their mannerisms, about your storyline. Again, you'll need to think about the beginning, the conflict or problem, how your character overcomes that problem, and how it ends. What's their goals and motivation? You may also want to record what others think and say about them. Inside your character, you're going to write about their strengths, their flaws, and their personality. Again, I've created a worksheet which I've shared on Dojo with you to help you think about how to lay this out in your learning journey. So as always, there's the inquiry question at the top and today's date. On the right hand side, I've drawn a line with my ruler for my thinking column. You might want to put your thinking column on the left or at the bottom of your page. In the middle of the page, I've drawn my character, and then I'll add all the details around the outside, saving the personality, strengths and flaws for the centre of my character. The thinking column is very similar to the first. Using your success criteria, you're going to rate your character 1, 2, 3 being, oh dear, I forgot about my success criteria. I need to rethink about my character. In the middle, yes, I think I've achieved some of the success criteria. And over in 9 and 10, yeah, my character's brilliant. I know that I've achieved all that I set out to achieve. If you've identified something you need to research, for example, if your character is a scuba diver, you may need to do some research about scuba diving. You might have identified something you need to think about. Make a note of it in your thinking column. Lastly, you'll need to reflect on how you've challenged yourself. Perhaps you've challenged yourself to come up with some new vocabulary using a thesaurus or a Google search. Perhaps you've shown determination because it was really tough thinking of a storyline for your character and making your character believable. So Year 5 and 6, there are your two options. Here's a quick recap. We're creating our engaging main character today. We're generating as many ideas as we can for this main character. If you need to hear the success criteria again, or you want to listen and pause at key moments, just rewind the video. But here is your success criteria. Then you have two options about how to lay it out in your book. You could use a character map or a roll on the wall. I've shared on Class Dojo two worksheets, although they're not worksheets because you're not going to write on them, but they're two sheets that help you with your layout or what it might look like in your learning journal. The thinking column is on the right hand side, and when you finish creating your character, you will need to complete the thinking column. Okay, this is a task that everybody can do at home to the very best of their ability, and I cannot wait to hear and read about all the characters you've created. You can be as creative as you like Year 5 and 6, as long as it's believable. Okay, have fun creating your character. Enjoy thinking about their past, their strengths and their flaws. Please, please, please share your learning with Mrs. PA and I, and have a wonderful day.